everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic. That was an extra YouTubey intro there. Hey guys, what's going on? Bloody hell. Let me try it again and then we'll see how it goes. Hey everyone, it's a very calm Jack, the jobber from Cultaholic.com here, and I'm about to talk to you about AEW Dynamite. But how good was Dynamite? And how significant a show was it? Because of course it was the 1 year anniversary special. Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's by assigning each individual segment a lovely individual grade. That's right, it's time for AEW Dynamite 1 year anniversary special, graded. And we start things off, boom, straight away, like we're straight into the action with a tag team title match between FTR and Best Friends. And I'm thinking, wow, they're just throwing us right in here. I thought there'd be a bit of a ceremony to open it. There was a bit of a video, but there wasn't like anybody in the ring doing an announcement or a celebration. Tony didn't come out swinging his shirt around his head or anything. Khan, that is, although Shivani probably would have as well. No, it was just, here's a match straight away. And I think that's because there was an awful lot of wrestling on this show, like a lot, to the point where the non-wrestling stuff around it sometimes felt a little bit rushed. Anyway, you know how the start of this match goes. It's an FTR match and Best Friends are getting dominated. FTR are tagging in and out quickly, using clever strategy, occasionally bending the rules. And, you know, Tnt, I think it was in this case, is having to really cling on and survive for his team. It's standard stuff for FTR, but it doesn't really get boring because they're so talented and so good at switching it up. It always kind of feels quite fresh. Eventually, Chuck Taylor gets the hot tag. He runs wild for a little bit until Tully sweeps his leg from the outside and Dawson falls on top for a near fall. And Chuck is fuming. He grabs Tully from outside the ring, like through the ropes, and he's yanking him, but not like, oh. Bit saucy. And he's grabbing him and by the collar and stuff. But, you know, FTR get back into the match because of this. But it doesn't finish the match, and we have seen that little tactic by Tully finish matches before. Tnt and Cash Wheeler brawl into the crowd, the ringside bit where the wrestlers are, and Tnt charges at Wheeler. Wheeler moves out of the way, and Tnt just flies head first into Kip Sabian's suspiciously hollow-looking arcade machine. Yeah, the thing collapses like it's made of cardboard, but when men believe that it's real, Kip Sabian is aghast, he's so livid, and he shouts to Penelope Ford, "Go and get him! Go and get him!" And Ford rushes to the back, and we're going to wait for whoever to show up. My money's on Steve Blackman. Eventually, back in the ring, FTR pick up the victory with a nice belt shot behind the referee's back. Tully passes the belt to one of his boys. The other one distracts the referee, accidentally on purpose, shoves him over. Bang, belt shot to the face, and FTR pick up the win and retain their titles as well. FTR leave with Tully. Best Friends console each other in the ring. They have a bit of a hug. Trent's really woozy because he's just been nailed with a title belt. And then, of course, here comes Miro. That's who Penelope Ford was going to get. Miro, Penelope, and Kip Sabian all enter the ring, and Miro just takes out Best Friends with ease as well. He's quite frightening, actually, isn't he? Kip Sabian gets involved for like one move, but it's all about Miro, really. This gets a B+ grade for me. It was a good opening match, definitely, but I don't think the finish was as smooth as perhaps they'd envisioned it. I mean, the referee definitely saw that title belt before it was used. It wasn't quite as seamless as I think they may have drawn it up backstage, but it was still fine. It was still a good opening match, and I like that it sets up an immediate next feud for Best Friends against Miro and Kip Sabian, but surely it's a feud they're gonna lose. And straight away after that match, we're right into a tag match between Miro and Kip Sabian and their opponents, Sean Maluta and Lee Johnson. You can do it, guys. My money's on the second team I just mentioned. No, this is basically a squash match, isn't it? And interestingly, it's all Miro. He's just hitting all of the moves. Sabian tags in at one point to hit a splash, but then tags straight back out again, and that's his one offensive move of the match. Miro locks in the game over. His opponent taps out immediately. I think it's Maluta. And obviously they pick up the win. They cut a promo afterwards. Sabian is furious about his machine being broken. He calls it Alan. Interesting name for a console. Although I guess it's from the 80s, and maybe Alan probably was a more common name for people back then. Miro is, no offense if you're called Alan, but I feel bad now. Miro is also furious and says that it's game over for the Best Friends, or the Good Friends, as he calls them, which I really enjoy. And even if it was a botch, it's Miro, so it makes sense. He says silly things all the time. This gets a C+ match because it was just a really short squash, but I really enjoyed the intensity from Miro. It's very interesting to see how blatantly Sabian is just letting Miro do all the work and hiding behind him, and I think we could see that play out quite nicely down the line. Next up, a little update backstage ahead of the title match later on between Moxley and Archer, because Archer has jumped Moxley backstage and referees have to usher Archer and Jake the Snake Roberts, of course, away from the champion. Then, later on in the night, but I'll just stick it here because it's relevant, Alex Marvez is very jovially about to interview Archer. He's like, well, I'm here with Lance Archer, who's just bloody attacked Jon Moxley earlier. What a cheeky little rascal. Before we can see how that plays out, which would have surely been with Archer eviscerating Alex Marvez, we actually get a revenge attack from Jon Moxley. He jumps Archer from behind, the refs have to pile in to sort it out again, and Tony Khan announces that there'll be a no DQ stipulation for their title match at the end of the night. Next up, we get MJF, who is out with Wardlow in tow, of course, and he says he's got a monumental announcement to make, and he brings out Chris Jericho, who is, of course, accompanied by all of the Inner Circle, and is looking surprisingly good considering the battering that he took from Luther last week. Luther. Wasn't a very good match, was it? The Inner Circle all get in the ring. Obviously, Jericho is the only one really interested in what MJF has to say. The rest of them are like, ugh, this guy. He eventually remembered, though, to bring that jacket for Sami Guevara, because he gifted all of the Inner Circle jackets, forgot Sami's. Now he's giving him it. Sami doesn't want to put it on. Jericho's like, put on the jacket. It's a nice gesture, Sami. Sami puts it on. It's way too big for him. The sleeves are down here. It's all very quite funny. Very quite funny. What am I talking about here? MJF goes into super sycophantic mode now. He's praising Jericho's body, asking if he can touch Jericho's luscious locks, and he does so, and it's all a bit cringy, but deliberately so. But Jericho's suddenly very serious, and he's like, no, let's cut the crap, Max. What do you want? After a lot of stalling and umming and eyeing and, trying to think of other things to say and swallowing his pride, basically, MJF finally asks if he can join the Inner Circle. Immediately, Ortiz is like, we don't want you in the Inner Circle. Come on, Chris, let's go. The Inner Circle go to leave. Jericho's like, wait right there. Jericho instead invites Maxwell to a steak dinner next week, one-on-one. And MJF's like, oh, you want to eat steak with me? You want to eat a steak dinner? And Jericho's like, yeah, I want to eat a steak dinner with you. And they very intensely agree to this date, effectively, this lovely date. And then Jericho goes, right then, Max, I'll see you at the restaurant. And that's genuinely how the segment ends. I'm going to give this an A-. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was really funny, especially from Jericho this week. But at the same time, it was a bit of a slow step in the story progressing forwards. But I'm really invested in the story. I like where it's going. And yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. Next up, we get a montage of Tony Schiavone and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, having a spa day, a lovely spa day. They wax Tony's chest. It's a bit of a comical scene, like the 40-year-old virgin. Tony is screaming in half delight, half pain. I don't know if that's what chest waxing feels like, because I have not hit puberty yet. Elsewhere, they get pedicures and stuff. But the point of the whole general skit is that Britt Baker says she's back and she's putting the women's division on notice. And her most recent rule of being a role model is be the baddest bitch on the block. Oh, it's about to kick off, and I hope she becomes champion, because man, the women's division needs a bit of a boost at the minute. Next up, we get the TNT Championship match between, of course, the champion Cody, who's now dyed his hair blonde again, the cheeky scamp, and the challenger, of course, Orange Cassidy. And as Cody makes his entrance, we see sitting alone way up at the top of the stands, it's Darby Allin, sitting there like watching the action unfold, like a big face-painted emo sort of skater boy version of Sting. And we learned during the match that he is actually going to be the next #1 contender for the TNT Championship. That's Darby, not Sting. That'd be weird, wouldn't it? Cody said on social media before this match that he really wanted to make Orange Cassidy do a standard collar and elbow tie-up, a lock-up, because he says that Orange Cassidy's never done one in AEW. I'm not sure if that's true, but I 100% believe it though. So he tries at the start of the match. Cassidy's walking away, he's putting his hands in his pockets, being very Orange Cassidy, being very lazy. So Cody just shoves him in the chest, because Cody's the opposite of that. Cody does the work, guys. I don't know if you've heard this. Cassidy rocks back, his sunglasses fall off, and he's like, look at this preppy piece of crap. Right, okay, here we go then. Kicks his sunglasses out of the ring, and is suddenly fired up and locks up and out wrestles Cody and gets a couple of near falls as well. Cody then wears Cassidy down, dominates for a little while, but Cassidy fires up, hits a suicide dive at one point, which knocks Cody halfway over the guardrail where the Dark Order are standing. Not Brody Lee, he's nowhere to be seen, but like the minions of the Dark Order are there. and now they're going to get involved in the match. Behind the referee's back, John Silver grabs the TNT title off the timekeeper's table, runs around the ring, looks like he's about to clock Cody with it, but Orange Cassidy yanks the belt off him, and John Silver and the rest of the Dark Order all get ejected from the arena. And then, for a little moment, like Sami Zayn in NXT against Neville, it seems like Orange Cassidy's got the belt and he's contemplating, I could smack Cody with this right now. But he doesn't, he just hands it off to Arn Anderson, and the match continues, and Cody starts really breaking down Orange Cassidy's leg. Time is now winding down, there's a 20-minute time limit on this match, and yeah, they're running out of time. Orange Cassidy goes for the beach break, but his leg gives out because of the work Cody's done on it previously. Do the work! Cody puts on the figure four. I think this is going to be the end of the match, because his figure four has finished matches before, either by submission or by them just lying on the canvas due to the pain, I suppose, and taking a pinfall. But Cassidy survives. It's very convincing. He rolls over, reversing the pressure a couple of times, but Cody rolls back. Eventually, he manages to get the ropes. And yeah, for several moments during that submission hold, I thought the match was going to be over. They head to the apron, and Cassidy hits a beach break on the apron. It looks great. Cody's completely out of it. Cassidy has to slowly get his dead weight, drag him back into the ring, and it takes ages. And you think, well, Cody's definitely recovered. But I didn't realize Cody recovered to this extent, because Cassidy goes for the pinfall. Cody just turns it into a pinfall attempt, and Cassidy kicks out. Very convincing near fall. But an even more convincing near fall is about to come up, because Cassidy gets the beach break. He nails it again, this time in the ring, and Cody kicks out on the stroke of three. And it's, despite it being Cody, you kind of forget who's likely to win the match in the whole excitement of it. And I genuinely thought that Cody was about to lose there. Cody goes for the crossroads, I think, but Cassidy fights out. There's 10 seconds left. He goes for the orange punch, which if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I only just realized that it's called orange punch because of the drink, orange punch. I thought it was just called the orange punch, like calling something the Cody cutter, for example. I thought it was just a bit unimaginative like that. So I feel stupid now. Anyway, there's 10 seconds left. Back to it. Sorry, it's very intense. Orange goes for the orange punch. His leg gives out. Cody charges in, but Orange gets him in the mousetrap, that weird pinning predicament that he does. He beat Jericho with it, I believe. The referee gets down. 1, 2. Time runs out as he's on his way down to make the 3 count. And it's a draw. And it looked like Orange Cassidy had Cody beat. This gets an A grade from me. Wonderful match, best of the night. And also, I don't know if it's just because it was such a packed show, because there were so many titles being defended or whatever. I didn't expect it to be this good. I think maybe I thought it had too much to live up to after the Brody match, the week before. But no, it was really good in a totally different way. I expected Cody to win clean. I didn't expect it to be a time limit draw at all. And the finishing stretch was really, like, top level stuff, really exciting, enthralling wrestling. Parts of the match, like the involvement of the Dark Order and the beginning, saw the intensity drop a little bit, but they took us on a journey, and I thought it was really, really enjoyable. So A is the grade for me. Fantastic stuff. Next up, Tony is at ringside with Matt Hardy, who's got all of his family with him, and Tony says, Matt, how are you doing? And Matt says, I feel great, I feel really, really good, and I'd like to announce that as of now, I'm 100% ready to return to action. And as he's giving this very happy news, he is interrupted by a video on the Tron. Do we call it the Tron in AEW? Should we call it the Khan? The Titan Khan? Oh, maybe the worst joke I've ever made. We see that somebody's a little bit obsessed with Matt Hardy. There's pictures hung up with like clothes pegs all around this room, and then they're all of Matt Hardy's various different personas, and this hooded figure goes around with a lighter and sets each of them on fire, and we don't see who it is, but then the camera swings around and it's Sami Guevara. He confesses to attacking Matt backstage a few weeks ago. We thought it was Jericho, but it turns out it was actually Sami Guevara, and says, look, obviously it was me. I'm the one who took you out of action at All Out. I'm the one who attacked you backstage with the baseball bat, and my job's not finished until I send you home for good. Back to ringside with Tony, and Matt Hardy says, right, well, my first order of business upon my return is defeating Sami Guevara. Now, this doesn't get a grade, by the way. It was a bit of a short segment, but I'm just not sure what I would give it. I don't think I'd have given it a very high grade anyway, because I'm not too happy about the cursed feud continuing. Because even before that horrible fall that Matt suffered at All Out, this feud was kind of not going the way that AEW had hoped, I think. There was that injury, Sami threw the chair, which split Matt's head open. It just wasn't really clicking, was it? I understand that they both probably want a chance to actually have a good match and show what they can do and show that they can do something without it being dangerous or a disaster. But at the same time, maybe it's time to just leave it. I don't know. I really don't know. Next up, we're back in the ring with Tony Schiavone, who is putting in a shift this week. Let's give him Let's clap him off the pitch, ladies and gents, because he is man of the match this week. Anyway, Tony's in the ring with FTR. All the tag division are on the stage behind them, and in the ring, FTR have a Tumblr, not the social media account. Imagine if FTR had a Tumblr, just uploading their favourite super cute things from around the internet. Is that what Tumblr is? I think that's the sort of thing that Tumblr... Is Tumblr dirtier than that? Anyway, regardless of all that, they've got a Tumblr like a Royal Rumble style. All the balls are in here. It's, you know, a lottery style Tumblr. Tony is going to pull out 4 balls, and then they are going to be the 4 tag teams that will compete with each other next week. And the winner of that 4-way match will go on to face FTR, I think, at Full Gear. And the 4 tag teams are, first of all, Private Party, who swaggered down to the ring all like cocky and stuff, because they're super cool dudes. Drinking's cool. Next up, we've got Alex Reynolds and John Silver from the Dark Order, who are not cool about it. They are fired up. They run down like they've been chosen for The Price is Right. It's really, really good stuff. Next up, the 3rd team, Butcher and Blade, who just do not show any emotion upon getting into the ring. And finally, it's got to be the Young Bucks, right? Number 4 has to be the Young Bucks in this match. Tony pulls the ball out, and it is the Young Bucks. And Tony plays it off so well because he still hates them because they super kicked him not too long ago. He throws the ball. He's like, no, not those bloody Young Bucks. But it's really good stuff. In fact, did they super kick him? Or did they just break his foot? No, I think they've super kicked him as well, haven't they? The Bucks saunter down. They get in the ring. They're so cool, guys. They get in the ring. They get on the mic and they go, right, we're not here to super kick you, FTR. And they make them shake their hands, and they have a very intense handshake, and then they say, we're here to super kick these guys, and they turn around and just super kick. Right, I think it's John Silver and the Blade. I don't know what they've got against John Silver and the Blade. Maybe it's just because they were stood behind them. It sounds like they really came to the ring with the express intent of kicking the Blade and John Silver, but I'm sure it was just to kickstart a brawl, which it does. All 4 teams brawl. FTR take Tully and get out of there. They head up to the ramp. And in the ring, Private Party and the Young Bucks stand tall. They've cleared the ring during the brawl. They face off against each other, and then they shake hands. Remember, Private Party upset the Young Bucks 1 year ago in the first round of that tag team tournament to decide the inaugural tag team champions. But then the Bucks just super kick Private Party anyway, because they're dicks now. This gets a B grade. I like the setup of the match next week, and I wonder if the Bucks are actually going to win to set up that dream match between the Bucks and FTR, or whether they'll wait until more fans can return to wrestling shows like further in the future. Also, I don't want to give this segment too high a grade. It's getting a B because I feel like Private Party kind of looked like punks at the end, and so did the Blade, and so did John Silver. So, you know, I'm enjoying the Bucks being heels again, but one trap that people often fall into when the Bucks are heels is kind of looking foolish around them. Next up, we get the AEW Women's title match between Hikaru Shida and Big Swole. Swole. I like her music, it's decent. This match has a similar sort of technical start to Swole's recent match with Serena Deeb, but unfortunately it's not quite as good. It's not quite as smooth. They go for a double kip up at one point, but Shida doesn't make it and has to scramble to her feet, which is always a bit awkward. And unfortunately, that kind of sets the tone for this match. At one point they head up top, Swole tries to do a sunset flip and just sort of slips off the ropes as she lands and just lands right on her arse on the canvas, and it doesn't look very good. She has to pull herself back up and finish the spot. Also, at one point, the referee counts a near fall, even though Shida's shoulders are blatantly off the mat. So it's just everyone involved with this match was having a bit of an off night. And JR as well. When the shoulders are clearly off the mat and the referee still counts 2, JR goes, shoulders were clearly off the mat there. And there's just awkward silence. You can just tell Excalibur's next to him going oh. Swole at one stage manages to hit Dirty Dancing. Shida gets to the ropes. She doesn't kick out. She manages to scoot along and grab the bottom rope, and then shortly afterwards wins with a pair of running knees. She is still the AEW Women's Champion, but I feel bad for both the women involved because it just wasn't their night and it wasn't Shida's best title defense. Unfortunately, I can only give this match a D grade. I really wasn't a fan of it, even though I don't think both women in the match are bad or anything. I just wasn't a fan of this match. It didn't click. Also, obviously, this was the only women's match on the show, and I feel like the women's division needs more representation. And the one women's match this week wasn't even good, so it continues to be a weak point of AEW. I think they need to start booking the women's division a bit more consistently and a bit more seriously. Hopefully, Britt Baker's return will help with this. Next up, just before the main event, we get a very short video package but it's like a Sean Spears video package calling out or targeting Scorpio Sky. And that is apparently because on that late night Dynamite that happened after one of the NBA playoff games, it was like a 1 hour special. In the main event of that, if you remember, it was Matt Sydal and Sean Spears, and Spears tried to do a beatdown after the match, and then Sky had to run out and save the day for Sydal. And Spears is apparently furious at that. He says, Sky stole my moment, and now he owes me a moment, which I guess is going to lead to a match between the two. But anyway, not much time to dwell on that, because here we go. It's time for the main event, the AEW World Title, no DQ match, by the way, between Jon Moxley and Lance Archer. And I've got some heartbreaking news. They took away Lance Archer's theme tune, It's My Life by Bon Jovi. Everybody dies and it's now or never. Yeah, they've got rid of that, that's gone. So apparently, according to Cultaholic's own Justin Henry, the new song sounds like Lamb of God. Well, I don't want Lamb of God, I want Bon Jovi and the Boys! Just realised, by saying Bon Jovi and the Boys, I meant John Bon Jovi and the Boys. But Bon Jovi and the Boys, that means the band Bon Jovi and some extra boys from elsewhere. This change in theme music's really rattled me, okay? Anyway, it's worth also noting that Eddie Kingston and the Lucha Bros, Penta and Phoenix, are there on commentary as well. Kingston spends a lot of this match talking up the fact that he doesn't care which of his stable win gold. As long as one of them does, it's a win for all of them. He doesn't care if Phoenix does, Penta does, Butcher or Blade or himself. As long as one of them wins the gold, he's a happy man. He also says at one point, yeah, you know what, Jim, I'm not here alone, I'm not here by myself, I've got my boys with me, I've got my best friend with me, and I've got Phoenix with me as well. And I just think, oh, poor Phoenix, man, he's gone, Penta, my best mate's here, and his brother's here as well, he's alright. I'm just like, oh, poor Ray. Anyway, now onto the match itself, where Moxley hits an immediate paradigm shift to start things off. It's a near fall, and it could have been over within seconds. But then Archer begins to dominate, they brawl on the outside, Archer's now wearing him down, Moxley fights back with chairs, Archer fights back with a trash can, or a bin, as we call it in the UK, far more simple name. And basically it becomes a little bit of a hardcore match. Archer sets up 2 tables on the outside next to each other like that, and heads up the apron, and tries to, it looks like he wants to hit a paradigm shift on Moxley, his own finisher, off the apron through the tables, which would be devastating scenes. But Moxley reverses it with a low blow and hits the paradigm shift of his own off the apron through the tables, and now Archer's on the back foot, very much so. But then Archer remembers, hang on lads, wait a minute. It's G1 season. I've got to start kicking out with stuff and no-selling stuff. So they get back in the ring. Moxley hits a paradigm shift again. 1-2. Archer kicks out. Bulldog choke by Moxley straight away. Archer stands up out of it. And I'm like, yes, Archer. It is G1 season, mate. And you used to be in the G1 as well. Archer sticks Moxley up on the top rope, turns around, hits the Razor's Edge, or the Blackout. He calls it the Blackout, doesn't he? It's like the sit-out version. 1, 2. Moxley turns it into a crucifix. 1, 2, 3. And Moxley squeaks out of the match with his title intact. Archer is livid, he's like, what the hell, it's G1 season, I was firing up, and just boots Moxley down after the bell. He's just like, I've had enough of this, bang, big boot. Starts to beat Moxley down in the middle of the ring. So on commentary, Eddie Kingston goes, go and help him, go and help him. Phoenix and Penta run down, looks like they're gonna help Archer, right? Because they're heels as well, they're gonna beat down the champ who they hate, because Kingston still hates Moxley, of course. But instead, they fight off Archer. I mean, he no-sells their attack and he just looks at them, and then Jake the Snake has to be like, come on Lance, let's get to the back, you, get to bed. But Archer's like, what the hell? And I'm also like, what the hell? I thought they were going to help Archer, not Moxley, but they've helped Moxley instead. Kingston gets in the ring and gets on the mic and says, you know what, credit to you, Jon Moxley, you've won this match, and you're my buddy, you have been for years now. Totally not what Kingston was saying recently in his little feud with Moxley, when he was saying, you left, you sold out, you went to WWE. Now he's like, we're pals, man, we're both fighters, we respect each other, and you're a great guy. Remember those times we got drunk together? And he lifts Moxley's arm up, and Moxley should just get out of there, he should run away, because Kingston just turns, back fists him in the face, sleeper hold locked in, and he chokes Moxley out while screaming that he's going to get him to close the show. This gets a B+ grade. It was a cool little match, a cool hardcore match. It was nicely done by both men involved. Bit weird to end the show once again with Kingston, you know, on top. He's been kind of cropping up intermittently over the past few weeks, hasn't he? Or maybe even a bit longer than that, to be fair. That's fine. That's totally fine. I mean, I really enjoy Eddie Kingston, especially on the microphone. He's fantastic. But I wonder where this is going to go. The clue might be in the fact that on commentary he was saying, I don't care which of us win the gold as long as one of us does, because of course in the 8-man tournament to decide the number 1 contender, it's Penta versus Phoenix in the very first round. But anyway, that segment gets a B+. It was decent. Not sure about the ending, the aftermath, but we'll see where it goes. Now, onto the overall grade. So on the whole, this week's 1 year anniversary edition of AEW Dynamite gets a B+ grade from me. A lot of wrestling on this show, a lot of in-ring action. The stuff around it sometimes felt a bit rushed, sometimes didn't. There was some good stuff. Loved the Jericho and MJF bit. Some bits of the show let it down. The women's title match was a bit of a letdown. You know, the Cody Orange Cassidy match was fantastic. The main event was decent. I think on the whole, it was generally quite good, generally pretty good, which is why I'm giving it a B+ grade. But on the whole, I'm still more optimistic than a B+ grade would suggest, because this is where AEW really start to excel. In the build-up to a big pay-per-view, Full Gear is on the horizon, the storylines are ticking over nicely, and I'm very excited to see where a lot of them go. One drawback, of course, is the women's division. I think they really need to improve the women's division quite fast. It continues to be underrepresented on the show. It only gets a few minutes compared to the, everything else on the show. So I feel like they need to maybe rethink things in a way. But on the whole, generally optimistic. But what do you think? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section down below. And thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Stay safe out there, stay positive. Let me know what you thought of Graded as well, and I'll see you very soon.